Counterpunch Media Live in 3, 2, 1.
Once upon a time, they awoke to the concerted effort underway to dummy them down, to the forces working at every turn to water down human wherewithal. They stood, they rallied, they drew their line in the sand, vowing once and for all to scale their spines and mortal up. That was the day the tables turned, and the universe itself sat up and took notice.
Live from the Counterpunch Studios in Columbus, Ohio, you're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy on IPMNation.com. If you're not going to mortal up, why not just stay in bed?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is not a drill.
All Natural Being. Warning, All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy is designed to shake your sense of self to the core.
It's full context psychology with an empowering twist, a philosophical loofah for your soul.
For those of you not ready or comfortable releasing your inner superhuman, listener discretion is advised.
Here's your host,
Brian Brawdy.
Welcome, and thank you for stopping by. A little bit of a clerical error. This is here. You've got a legend to let loose. And I try every morning to make sure that we serve up the very best thoughts in the history of thinking. And I'm fired up to be your virtual hitchhiker riding shotgun as you get into your day wherever you are. So what do you say? Here's your opportunity to mortal up, to crush your can't and your critics. It's time. So what do you say? Let's go kick in some doors. And, we talk in the very open. We've been trying to pare the open down. And I realize now, look at the clock, it's still a 2-minute open. So maybe we'll pare that back a little more. But ultimately, we kick off every show just saying, and this kind of ties into our lowlifes making headlines this morning, but we kick off every show saying, we have to stand for human wherewithal, right? We have to stand to that point where we ultimately remember who we are. And that by remembering who you are, you remember where you are, and ultimately everything that you're capable of. So being sad, being disgruntled, being depressed, being all these other things stems from, I believe, a lack of memory as to what you're ultimately capable of. And this morning's lowlife making headlines, since we're back to mornings, this is the first time that we've picked an individual for lowlife making headlines because he's just such a schmubba that it's hard for me not to look at this and go, all right, and forgetting everything else that serves around him. If you make a mistake, everything else just swerving in and out, right? The labyrinth of life itself around this nut. If you make a mistake, you just go, hey, my bad. I thought it was different than it was. My mistake. I apologize. I was wrong. And you move on. Oh, but no, not this low life making headline. And what's interesting about this is that if you and I had a friend that absolutely was found out to be wrong and just refused to go, I'm an idiot. I made a mistake. My bad. I'm truly sorry. You know what I mean? If that were the case, if they didn't apologize, we probably would stop hanging out with them. We'd say they're such an egomaniac. They can't even allow themselves to say, because their sense of self is so fragile, so timid, so frail, that they can't go, oh yeah, I was wrong. That was me. I apologize. I'm just wrong, right? They can't afford to let themselves do that. Only problem is this particular nut job happens to be pretty high up, and we'll get to it in just a minute so that you have it. All right, let's just do this real quick. What do we have this morning? Oh, on the docket. Let's take a listen to this.
On the docket for this morning, life certainly is an uphill battle when you let your mind's eye become the ultimate enemy. So knock it off.
Get off. All right, so let's not do that. Let's not let our mind's eye become our ultimate enemy, right? Even though this low-life making headline, he's definitely an enemy of ours. Let's not make our mind's enemy a co-conspirator to this nut. And we'll get to that in just a minute. But don't forget this morning you can call us 833-MIND-UPS, 833-646-3877. That's a toll-free call. Or you can also text us with some kind of rate supply. If you text us, I guess. Maybe you have an unlimited plan, so then you don't have to worry about it. So that would be cool. 833-646-3877. Those texts and your phone calls come directly here into the studio. So if you get a chance, give us a holler and let us know. Now, you may have an opinion. Look, just because this low-life making headline is such a dearth of human intelligence, that doesn't mean that you have to agree with me. You might go, oh, no. This guy's a class act, right? We can't say for sure that we know that I'm correct about that, but I'm correct about this one. This one, there's just no mistake in this guy, right? There's absolutely no mistake here. So let's get, what do you say? Let's just get to it this morning, because I would love to get your opinion. I would love to get your sense as to whether I'm on the ball here or not. And then you can give us a call from iHeartRadio. Candace, I was just thinking about you. Oh, also don't let me forget iTunes. iTunes as well. Thank you so very much for listening. Candace, I was just thinking about you. Good morning. Peace to you as well. Heather, good morning. Lee, good morning. My dog had to pee at 7 o'clock at 7 a.m., so I made it. That's fantastic. Candace, please thank your dog, right? Nature calls. The show is All Natural Being, right? So even if it's your dog's all natural being, if nature calls and your pup's got to take which reminds me, well, we'll talk about this later, but it reminds me of, this is a perfect example of how when I need a filter, when I go, Brian, don't say that on air. That's just not good. But Candace, remind me of a joke with my family. I'll tell you about it. Or maybe I will here when we get there. Kathy, good morning to you as well. Thank you so very much, all of you, for joining us here at All Natural Being. So let's do this. Let's jump right into low-life making headlines. Hopefully this works. And we got to get to it because, we talk about standing against human wherewithal. We talk about being treated like we're idiots. We talk about being treated like we're gullible. We talk about all these different things. So yeah, I get a lot wrapped around this. And I think a part of it, to be honest with you, is we get ready to get to our low lifes making headlines this morning. First time that we've named an individual human being since I've been back on the morning show, but this person absolutely deserves it. So let's do this and we'll be right back. Hot heads wrapped in thin skin covering brittle brains atop balsa wood spines? It's time for low-lifes making headlines. I dig the way it sounds, hot heads wrapped in thin skin, but this whole brittle brains atop balsa wood spines, I'm going to need a definition. I'm going to need, oh my gosh, which one? Well, any of them, Candace. Thank you very much. Good morning to Amy as well. Thank you for joining us at All Natural Being. You're just in time. Here's the drum roll. If I had a cymbal, that would be great. Maybe I'll get a cymbal because I figured out the drum roll thing here, but I haven't figured out how to end it with a cymbal. So let's do this. No, do I have a drum roll? No, I don't know where the drum roll went. All right, so just imagine I'm doing a drum roll. But this morning's low life making headlines. Okay, so you know that we endeavor every morning not to make this a political show, right? We don't. It's just because you know how I feel about politicians, right? They're one step above people that bag groceries at your grocery store. Everybody and their brother wants to be all excited. Oh, this plane is landing. Oh, this one said this, or this one said that, or blah 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 blah. But right, but they took a job as a politician because the the job of collecting grocery carts at your local supermarket and pushing them back in so that they're clean and dry, at least for you to shop in your stores, right? They couldn't get a job there, so they decided, oh, I think I'll be a politician, right? Just if you look at the intelligence scale of a normal human being and you go, oh, politicians, they're at the shallow end of the pool. They're definitely they're politicians because candidly they couldn't get a real job. So my low life making headline this morning, and it does nothing. It has nothing to do with political parties. So I would say this about anyone, but our low life making headline for this morning is and I always love this. We refer to him now because he's a chairman of a subcommittee. They refer to him as the honorable. And then that's another thing we got to knock off. Just because you're in politics, that makes you honorable? Please. Look at some of these nuts running for office. But in any event, our low life making headline this morning, I know I've set it up kind of long, so you've probably figured it out yourself. I know you're going, well, of course it's Adam Schiff. Why wouldn't it be Adam Schiff, right? Here's a guy. Now, regardless of what you believe about Mueller, however it's pronounced, tomato, however, whatever you believe about that report, all I'm simply suggesting is that, in the States and in other parts of the world as well, you're innocent until proven guilty, right? You're just innocent until proven guilty. Well, when the report comes back and says, hey, there was no Russian collusion, then you would say, wait a minute, no, we just didn't find enough evidence to rise to beyond a reasonable doubt. We couldn't find any evidence. There was no collusion. As a matter of fact, the Russians kept coming at the Trump campaign, kept coming at everyone, trying to entrap them to commit a crime. And they're like, nah, no thanks. We're good. We'll do this on our own. So then you'd think Adam Schiff would just go, you know what, my bad. I apologize for the good of the country. We're going to put it behind it. But this nut's still running around on TV yesterday, right? Saying, oh no, I've got irrefutable proof. I've got hard evidence. I've got the facts, the this and that and everything else. Now, Mueller and his pit bulls and everyone else that was on that team, you'd think if there were collusion, Russia or anybody else, if there were collusion, this top-notch staff. Now, regardless of what you think of their political affiliation, they're smart guys and girls, right, on this staff. If they couldn't build a case wanting there to have been some type of collusion, right? And they can say whatever they want. They can come in front of the camera and go, well, for the good of the country, we're glad that didn't happen. What a crock of baloney. Right? If they're tasked, they spend $25 million or some odd dollars, your task, I can take it from an ex-cop, man. You want to build that case. You want to find the evidence. You're going to leave no stone unturned until you're able to build your case. You're going to take it to a grand jury and you're going to go, let's lead them out in handcuffs. That's the way it goes. But not a single thing. The report said, hey, just nothing. So take all the politics out of it, take all the different things out of it, and go, what type of human being doesn't apologize and say, you know what, I said some things in the heat of the moment. It's just really passionate of mine, and I apologize. I'm sorry, right? I guess I was wrong. Or, all these investigators, all this money, 2 years, but oh no, wait a minute, Adam Schiff, I'm smarter than all these investigators. I'm smarter than all these other people. I know. And the only reason I bring it up is, do you have other Venus flytraps? Human Venus flytraps running around in your life that they just know what's best for you. They know, and they're never going to waffle. They're never going to change their opinion. Why? Because they can't. They're hot heads wrapped in thin skin. They're balsa wood spines holding up brittle brains, and they can't afford to apologize. They can't afford to say, hey, I'm sorry. So that's my low life making headline for this morning. Adam Schiff, Shifty, and it's amazing that we put people in power to legislate over our daily lives. And these are the egomaniacs that are so shallow, that are so thin-skinned, that are so hot-headed that they can't apologize and say, look, hey, on its face, I guess I was wrong, so I'm sorry. All right. I thought it would have been, if you don't pay me off, I'm telling. Oh, yes. Well, thank you so very much, Candace. Of course, Candace is jumping in the thread. She's right. A low life making headline could have been, I don't look down to see if I'm wearing Nike. No, I'm wearing Columbia this morning. Oh, Candace is talking about, what does Tucker Carlson call him? The creepy porn lawyer. What's that? Oh, Avenatti. Oh, here's Avenatti. Now, here's another thing that I wanted to mention now that Candace says you thought it would have been creepy porn lawyer. we- they just couldn't go after this guy yesterday, right? Which shows you get a group of prosecutors together and they're going to go after you. If they smell blood, right? If like a shark in the water, it's like you've chummed the water. If they smell blood, it's watch out, Bessie. They're heading for the barn, right? They're going to build this case no matter what. As in the case of creepy porn lawyer, with again, I don't want anyone to say I plagiarized. So and that could be tomorrow's low life making headlines. But when they went after Avenatti, they decided to charge him both in Los Angeles and New York. And I'm thinking to myself, well, wait a minute, why not charge him in Ohio and like Montauk Point, right? Why, or right? Why not charge them as far east and as far west in the United States as you possibly could? But yes, Candace, that's a very good point. Michael Avenatti, which gives you an idea of how bad this Adam Schiff guy is. If he was able to beat out yesterday Michael Avenatti for Low Life's making headlines, you got to go, wow, man, Adam, you really get a grip, brother. All right, so let's do this. We're going to do a quick break, and we will be right back. Don't forget, go call me if you think I'm totally off base. You're welcome to text me as well, 833-646-3877. If you're like, wait a minute, Adam Schiff, no, he's a great... He's a great guy, right? Well, so Brian, you got to give him a second chance. He's just a great guy. All right, here we go.
You're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy. How much longer will you let them hijack your head and your heart?
All right, so how much longer are you going to let Adam Shifty shift low versus lower? Very good. Thank you, Candace, very much. I appreciate that. How much longer are you going to let them try to hijack our hearts and our heads? Here's the guy. You get my drift. All right, so we've kicked Adam Schiff as much as we can this morning. All right, so what I'd like to talk about this morning in All Natural Being, now that I've vented that, now that I've gotten it out, as I prepare, let me mention this quickly, as I said I would. We're having to move our and it's going to be April 13th. Sorry about that. IPM Nation's International Block Party for the Brian Brain Trust is going to be live April 13th. It's going to be 13 hours as opposed, just because now they're wondering, well, can you really make it all that long? And what we're going to do is we're going to do it 11 a.m. to midnight. That's a Saturday, April 13th. And what's it say here? Be a part of backing Brian's brain. So, Maxine Waters, that would have been... That would have been another one. Thank you, Kathy. See, this segment writes itself. But we're going to be doing the IPM Nation's International Block Party for the Brian Brain Trust. It'll be live from 11 a.m. till midnight on April 13th. Be a part of backing Brian's brain. We'll look at that. Well, thank you also very much for that. I super appreciate it, but just a little programming note that it will not be this Saturday. We're going to move it a couple of weeks because of some other things. To Marcellus, and belated happy birthday, Marcellus. Kathy, thank you very much. Again, Maxine Waters, who'da thunk it, right? Thank you for the vote. And now, see, here's a perfect example of how people can start to vote. So for the rest of the week, what's today? Like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We could take Maxine. We could take Jerry Nadler. We could take Michael Avenatti. But here's the thing. I didn't, right? This isn't about politics. And politicians, you're like, Brian, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. Did you really, all your lowlifes making headlines are going to be politicians? That's kind of drab. Don't you think? That's kind of redundant, right? That's just redundant. Now, of course, your politicians are your lowlifes making headlines. Of course they are. They're politicians, right? They couldn't get a job pumping gas, right? So they became a politician. Your public siphons. Oh, well, he was a public servant for 50 years. No, he was a public siphon for 50 years. But okay, enough of that. So for All Natural Being this morning, one of the things as I prepare for the Big Five, coming up now in a little less than a month. Wayne said to me this morning, how great's it going to be in less than a month? They will have made sure that you're not leaking spinal fluid anymore. And I'm like, oh man, that is going to be great. But what I wanted to talk to you about today is this memory of who you are, what you're ultimately capable of, but also where you are. And I remember reading a long time ago, I think maybe it was A Hero with a Thousand Faces from Joseph Campbell. And he was talking about sacred spaces. And you've heard the term before, sacred spaces, and you got to travel here, you got to travel there, you got to do this, you got to go, you got to, some other carrot on the end of the stick. But the moment I read that, and it's been years since I first came across this, what I'd offer to you that the sacred space that's important to you is where you're standing right now in this particular moment in all of time. Right? So if we get to the point where we're always looking for the carrot at the end of the stick, we're always looking for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, we're always looking for the grass is always greener on the other side, right? We're always looking for our heart's highest priority to be somewhere else. But a sacred space is where you're standing right now in this particular moment in all of time. Right? So, people say all the time, oh, well, you can't talk religion and politics. So let's, since we started off the first half of the show talking about politicians and how they can't get a job doing anything else, so they decide to go into politics. Let me just say this, and some of the other people running now going, I've wanted to be president. I was born for this. So was Lex Luthor born to think he could take on Superman and take over the world. You and I would not walk into a party, and if someone said, oh yeah, I'm here, I was born to be president, we'd go, yeah, let's make sure we didn't leave our wallet in our overcoat, right? You'd be like, yeah, we didn't realize they were letting the nuts out to come to this party. We thought it was just a little, like a Planters peanuts in the bowl. We didn't realize all the whack jobs were getting out as well. That's all I'm trying to say. But now, as the religious part of our show, sacred spaces are where you're standing right now. Do you ever stop and wonder, just for a moment, why the divine, in any of the top religions of the world, the divine always came to the individual when they were alone in nature? Moses on top of a mountain, Jesus in the desert, Muhammad in a cave, Lao Tzu in the backwoods, Arjuna in an open grassy plain, Joseph Smith from the Mormon faith in the woods of Palmyra, New York. Jacob wrestles an angel when he's alone. So when you think about all this, the divine has always come to the individual when they're alone in nature, in this particular now, in all of time. So your sacred space, if you want to figure out, okay, well, where's my sacred space? I need a sacred space. All you need to look down is, and to see where your feet are right now. All you need to look down is to see where you're standing or where you're sitting right now in this particular moment in all of time. That's your sacred space. And one of the quickest ways to identify, I believe, the fingerprints of providence, one of the quickest ways to identify what the universe, what the divine itself is trying to do to make sure that you're living in resonance with the vibration of your own heart, that your heart's highest priority is, in fact, the guide star of your life, is for you to be able to pay attention to this particular moment in all of time, to own your now, if you will. Right? That right now you have the ability to turn where you are into a sacred space. And I believe it all falls back on the breath. I saw an app yesterday, or a commercial for an app that teaches you how to breathe, right? Take 30 seconds out to take a nice deep breath. And I find myself doing that more and more, right? Especially as I'm like, okay, well, how am I going to ramp up? How am I going to prepare for this? Everyone's running around going, oh, wow, the 5th brain surgery, that's got to be kind of tough in 2.5 years. But right? So I fall back on the breathing. As you might be challenged by anything in your day, you might go, no, I'm able to take this. So you draw in a nice deep breath, fill your lungs, hold it for a couple of seconds. I love to be honest with you, I do 8 seconds. I do an 8-second inhale, hold it for 8 seconds, 8-second exhale, I time it, and then I hold the exhale so that there's no air in my lungs. I hold that for 8 seconds, and I complete the entire rhythm. That for me is how to identify where I am in any particular moment in all of time, and to feel. Everyone's like, oh, well, you need a mantra to meditate. Oh, please. Why don't you go, if you need a mantra, go check Adam Schiff. He's got a mantra for you. All I'm saying is that your mantra could be thank you. Your mantra could be a sense of gratitude. Your mantra doesn't have to be a spoken word. It's just something to center your mind. Why not center it on your heart's highest priority, vibrating in the top of your chest? Candace says, and who votes for these people scares me even worse. More nuts. I'm with you. I'm with you. Lucy is on. Just delivered little Ricky. Oh, thank you, Candace. I appreciate that. Lucy is on. Okay, very nice. Thank you. Well, Candace, thank you for wearing two hats. Thank you for double teaming. I appreciate that. Any more Lucy and Ricardo updates, we would appreciate that. Candace says, and who votes for these people scares me even worse. I'm with you. Candace also says, breathing works. Ian, nice to see you. And Ian, if you could comment quickly, we're talking about how politicians here in the States and the way Brexit's going over by you, I'm sure you would concur. Politicians are politicians because they couldn't get a job at the local sandwich shop working midnight to 8 on the weekends. So how's everything going over there with Brexit? It's not looking good. So that's kind of what we're kicking around this morning. I know you're thinking, right? But these are things that stand in the way of your all-natural being. These are things where people try to treat you as being just gullible as a country day is long. Good morning to Sarah. Sarah, nice to see you. Please tell everybody we said howdy. Hope all is going well. We've been talking this morning about your sacred space being where you're standing right now in this particular moment in all of time. Now, the takeaway is, if you can't make this particular moment your sacred space, forget about the pilgrimage. Forget about circumnavigating. Forget about a journey, right? Because as you've heard me say before, the Latin root of the word adventure, aventura, la aventura, is something about to happen. So it's not an expedition where you're going, oh, I'm going to get to this sacred space over here. It's not an expedition. It's not a journey. It's not a carrot at the end of the stick. It's not a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. You are the end of the rainbow, right? You are that pot of gold in this particular moment in all of time. So it's an adventure. What is about to unfold in this particular moment right now to show you that it becomes a sacred space when you tune into the vibration of your own heart. Sarah says, fully agree. Oh, Ian says, fully agree, Brian. Thank you very much. And feel free. Politicians took a job as a politician because they couldn't get a job doing X. So please fill in the blank. Anyone here in the thread, or you're welcome to post over at ipmnation.com in the chat room. Right, they're politicians because they couldn't get a job doing anything else. And let's not to try to disparage people that actually hold those jobs, right? They're thankful that the politician decided to be a politician. So we didn't do that. Sarah says, morning, did I miss the politics talk? Yes, but Sarah, thank you so very much, sis. I super appreciate it because this is a perfect segue for me to say, oh, well, you can pick it up on iTunes or iHeartRadio or Spotify or any of the other places that you get your favorite podcast. You can pick up All Natural Being, so you don't have to miss that. Ian says, our politicians are a total waste of space. Ian, I think we would agree in this country. Ours are as well. So that's what we've been kicking around this morning. Never let these walking, talking Venus flytraps, right? If you make a mistake, go, my bad, I was wrong. You know what I mean? And then at some point, if there's anyone here that knows how this works, what are slander laws? What are libel laws? Can you just say anything you want to about anybody and get away with it? I don't get how this happens. Lee says, well, there's not much of a market for organ grinder monkeys these days. I know, it's sad, Lee, isn't it? It's sad that there isn't, because who doesn't like to sit around couldn't get a job poop scooping. Kathy, right, and Candace might concur. If they did have a job as a dog walker, that's great, right? They couldn't get a job as a dog walker, so they decided to become a politician. All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap, but remember, my apologies for getting off on a tangent of our low-life making headlines for today. Of course, you know them. Adam Schiff, and a close second, to Candace's point, a close second was Michael Avenatti. Who knows if this thing will even stay up here on Mug Pamphlet. One of the social media sites will probably pull it down and say that Low Life's making headlines is a closeted form of hate speech. Who knows, right? There you go. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get out of here. We will be back tomorrow morning with an all-new Low Life making headlines. But just remember, between now and then, to mortal up. And when you mortal up, you realize that the sacred space we're all hoping for is right where we're standing right now. When you own your now in this particular moment, in all of time. All right, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Thank you so very much. We'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning.
You've been listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy.
Join us live every Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 a.m. Eastern.
Also, check us out around the clock at allnaturalbeing.com.
Until then, always remember to bring your own bold.